Hello, Brobs. We're back with Shakespeare's Sweet Heart. I believe we're on chapter 19 there. Yeah, chapter 19, which I think is a long one. After life's air. What? What's that say? After life's. I wonder if there's a. I can't read the letter. Is that P-I-T? Fit. Oh, that's right. Fitful. It's a F, not a. After life's fitful fever. The next day, as Will had told the Queen, we started back to Stratford, thereby creating much wonderment among the players. Master Johnson and Master Burbage urged Will strongly not to leave London just after his success at the palace. He stood in his own light by so doing, they said, but Will was firm. He could not explain to them why he felt so sure of a continuance of Her Majesty's favour, nor make them understand why he was so suddenly seized with a desire to visit Stratford. Cesario, he said, he would take with him, because the lad had come from Stratford and was homesick. It remained unknown that I was not to return to London. Ah, what a happy journey it was that we made together, comrade-wise, from London to Stratford. When I had come to the great city, it had been springtime. The birds had sung love notes on every bush and tree. The tender flowers had been budding. All things had told of youth and hope and sweetness. Come on, don't lose your frame here. And yet my heart had been aged and despairing and bitter. Now it was autumn and the leaves had begun to fall. Not to mention that you have a baby back home that you both have ignored for the stage. The birds were hushed. The landscape spoke of change and sorrow and death. Yet my spirit sang for joy within my bosom. True, change would come, and sorrow also, and death. Yet what mattered it when I had love immortal? I kept my boy's disguise, for it was more convenient for the journey, and we would arrive at Stratford at nightfall. As we rode together through the beautiful autumn land, it was as if the past months were blotted out. Once more we paced through Stratford roads to Charlecote, and talked eagerly of our love, of Will's aspirations, and now we had also our child to talk about and long for. Think I have never seen her, Will said, but thy letters made her live for me. I wondered much that none had come while I was ill, and had planned to go to Stratford when the play at the palace was safely over. Suppose I had not discovered thy sex, and that I had carried out my idea. What wouldst thou have done, Cesario? His eyes twinkled as he used my assumed name. I know not, I answered, laughing, but I would have found a way to deceive thee still, had I chosen. Trust woman's wit for that. No doubt the letters thou hast sent to Stratford since my departure are still unopened, since my grandam can neither read nor write, nor poor grandam. Ah, Will, why is it? I am sorry now for the grief and anxiety she must have suffered. Yet during all these months in London I have never thought of her. And the child, I love her dearly, and yet when I made up my mind to come to thee, she seemed as naught, and I cared not what became of her. Why, Will, why? 'Cause you're a bad mother. He shook his head, his calm and level gaze resting upon me, yet looking also beyond. Who knows, he said, who knows? It was to be, 'tis all we understand, and it was well that thou did so. Let us thank God. A moment later he spoke of the Countess. She has left London, he said. She went while we were at the palace. I heard it this morning from Count William, who came to bid me farewell. He hath followed her, and will go to the ends of the earth to comfort and to succour her. I thought of her with pity and with sorrow, and breathed a prayer for her and for the Count. Then I looked once more on my dear love, and suddenly a great wave of remorse rushed over me for my past lack of faith in him. So noble and so true. I stretched my hands toward him beseechingly. Forgive, I whispered, forgive. He gave me one great tender glance of love and comprehension, then took both my hands in his and bent and kissed them with gentle reverence. Sweetheart, he said, sweetheart. When at last we arrived in Shottery, tired and travel-stained, we found a hearty welcome. How my babe laughed and lisped childish words of joy at sight of me, and smiled at her father as if she had known him all her life. How my grandam wept with delight to see us both together again, and in happiness. How we jested over my disguise, and what trouble I had to remove the dye from my hair, the stain from my face and hands. At length it was agreed that I should not appear in public for a few days, so that both might have time to wear off. Meanwhile, my grandam was to announce among the gossips that I had returned, quite recovered from the place whither she had sent me to heal my wandering wits. That was a happy journey, a blessed homecoming, and thank God it was but the beginning of many happy and blessed years. The rest of our love story is so peaceful and joyous that it can be told in a short space. 'Tis well that this is so, for I fear me my chronicle hath already spread beyond the limits that Master Johnson planned. I am an old woman now, and I can look back and say that the bliss that God hath granted me hath for far outweighed the bitterness that he saw fit also to send. My shadowed girlhood and those weary months when I deemed Will false to me were difficult, indeed, to bear, but against them are set many happy years of sunshine and prosperity and loyal love. The joy that entered my life when Will first came into it was eclipsed for a time, but it returned, a brighter light than ever, to shine steadily, beneficently, until the end. We had our sorrows. Will's family never approved of me, and his mother refused always to look upon me as a dolt. Will was a dutiful son, but after that night at Charlecote, he was scarce a loving one. When at length she died, he attended her funeral as an outsider. To his father he brought a renewal of fortune as his fame grew in London. In the course of time my grandam died also, a woman with whom life had dealt hardly, but who received, I dare to hope, some compensation from my perfect happiness. Will wept at her grave, as he had not at his mother's. Other children besides Susan came to us, twins, Hamnet and Judith. Hamnet lived a few brief, bright, boyish years, then passed to the beyond. He was such a child as his father must have been, and had he lived, perhaps, I will not awaken an old sorrow. In his innocence he went home to God. What more dare I desire? Sometimes during these latter days, since Will has left me, I have thought what joy it would be, had I a son to lean upon, a son with his father's eyes, as Hamnet had. But God knows best. If my checkered life has taught me nothing else, it has taught me this. 'Tis an old lesson, but passing difficult to learn. There was much lamentation when Will first went back to London without Cesario, and many inquiries as to why and wherefore he had left me. Will replied with truth that Cesario had been so well pleased to reach home again that he had no desire to return to London, and moreover that he was married. At the last news, the players raised a great shout of laughter, remembering my boyish appearance, and they sent their congratulations to me by Will when next he came to Stratford. The Queen kept her promise and gave Will's company her patronage. He became steadily more prosperous. I am glad to think that his genius alone would have brought him fame in time, but the Queen's gracious favor made his pathway smooth. Several times Her Majesty summoned him to a secret audience and inquired after my well-being. Once or twice she sent me a message, royal and gracious. No hint of my disguise ever reached either London or Stratford. Strangely, almost unexpectedly, the secret was well kept. But once in all those years we heard of the Count and Countess. I know not now whether they still live, or if they are dead, what was their fate. A letter came once to Will several years after my return to Stratford, a letter written from some sunny, retired spot in Italy. It ran as follows, without heading or signature. I am with her. 'Tis enough. She is changed, gentler and more tender, also, alas, more frail. I fear me she is not long for the earth. She bids me give you both her blessing and farewell. That blessing comes from wicked lips, she added. But the lips of St. Mary the Magdalene, were they not sacred after they had touched the feet of our Lord? And I, weak and sinful, lie in the dust before him. Therefore, perhaps, e'en my benediction, and with that she sighed and would say no more. We are not wedded. She would not have it so. As a brother am I to her, ministering to her wants. I come to see her each day. Cuck. And each day she seems nearer death. Thou, Will, who seest not as other men, and thy sweetheart wife, who is above all women, save one in my thought. You understand that there is no sin in our relations now, nor ever was between us two. Pray for us and farewell. So abruptly the letter ended, and we never received another. When those two, one scarlet-robed and crowned with dusky tresses, the other golden-haired and clad in blue, the color of the sky, when they passed from our sight that day before Paul's, they also went out of our lives forever. As the years went on and Will's prosperity grew, however, I again saw other faces which had grown dear to me in London. Will bought new place and established his family therein. Thus I came, an honored and wealthy matron, into the town where, as a nameless child, I had been glanced at askance and served in menial wise. Mistress quickly rejoiced over my rise in the world and fussed over the children to her heart's content. Good, homely friend, God bless her. Many of Will's comrades, after he had a home of his own, were invited to enjoy his hospitality, and so I met again stately Burbage and comical Kemp, kindly Johnson, and reckless Marlowe, young Green, and all of the rest. Not one of them, however, ever recognized Cesario the page and Anne Shakespeare the matron. The first time any came, I trembled lest they should do so, but my fears were groundless. Several years had passed. My hair was once more golden and my skin fair. Moreover, none suspected the truth. Once or twice some of them asked Will if he ever saw Cesario, and he always replied solemnly that he thought the lad must have moved to another part of the country, since he had disappeared so entirely, and this ended the matter. My daughters grew up and were wedded. First Susanna, then Judith. The latter, Will's favorite, was married shortly before his death, and he took much pleasure in arranging the details of the ceremony. She was a saucy wench, with yellow hair and sparkling blue eyes, and he delighted in teasing her and listening to her apt replies. Ah well, both she and Sue are good girls, and made happy marriages. Their joy in their husbands and their households gladdens me whenever I visit them. Although I still live in the body, my true life ended 5 years ago, or rather waits for me in paradise. For as I said in the beginning, it is 5 years since he left us, and the world that loves and mourns him still. His end was untimely, for he was in vigorous health, apparently, and it seemed as if he would live many years. One day he was laughing and jesting with some of his London friends, and they supped together in the garden. The next he lay in mortal illness. The disease, whatever it may have been, was speedy in its course. He soon sank into a stupor whence naught could rouse him save my voice. He knew me and responded to my call until the end, which came all too rapidly, a few days after he was stricken. It was midnight, and I was alone with him. The house was very still. I felt that death was near. My eyes were fixed on his face in passionate entreaty. My hand was clasped in his. Suddenly he awoke and knew me, for he smiled. Then his gaze left my face and rested on the starlit world without. 'Twas a perfect spring night. The full moon rode glorious in the heavens. The stars were a vast multitude about her. The murmur of the Avon sounded full and clear. So he lay an instant, drinking in with his dying senses the beauty of the world that he had loved so well. Then, quite clearly and distinctly, ere his eyes closed for the last time, he spoke. Forever, he said, and then again, more faintly, forever, forever. But whether he spoke of our undying love, or of the immortal beauty of the world, or of that strange new life and love that he was fast approaching, who shall say? His London comrades and his Stratford friends came to the funeral, and he was buried with much honor in the chancel of our little church. There was sore weeping and heartfelt grief, for all who knew him loved him right well, As I stood beside his burial place, I realized that all my heart was there, and that although my body might live on many years, my soul was in communion with his eternally henceforth in the beyond. So there in the quiet Stratford church by the river he lies, and there he will rest forever. No rude, unhallowed hand will seek to disturb his helpless dust, and so invoke the curse he has called down in his epitaph on any who dares remove his bones from that quiet resting place. As some saint's relic, that hallowed dust makes Stratford sacred, and many pilgrims will travel hither to do him honor in the years to come. And for me, I am not and cannot be altogether desolate. My daughters are married and away, but they come often and are dutiful girls. Yet it is not their presence that keeps me from loneliness. 'Tis rather the voices of the wind and the river which speak of him constantly to me. It is the glory of the moon and the stars and midnight majesty which makes live for me once more the mysterious last hour of his upon earth. It is the tranquil twilight when sitting alone. I were not surprised to see him rise from among the shadows. That's awkward. I were not. Ah, no, I am not lonely. He is always very near, loving me in life. He could not, even in death, desert me. Such is my credo and my comfort. My chronicle is ended. There are many things in it that will greatly surprise Master Johnson. Perhaps when he has finished it, he will think best that it be not published. That is as he pleases. It matters not to me. I have finished the task he set me, and now I may rest. Rest grows very sweet as life draws near its close. Ah, eternal rest, when wilt thou come to me? Empty world, when shall I leave thee? Will's last words have been echoing often in my mind of late. Oh, hasten, blessed time, when I shall have my heart's desire, and see his face again, when love and life both shall be mine forever. I believe that's a winged hourglass, but I could be wrong. Anyway, there's one short chapter left, but I will save it till tomorrow. It's only literally 2 pages, but for all 1.6 readers, I shall return tomorrow, bruv. Goodbye. Goodbye, bruv.